morning. Today I'm going to show you how to make an angel food cake. Now this is a foam cake, so it doesn't contain any butter or shortening or anything like that. Oven's ready. So I'm going to show you the techniques that go along with this. And this is a little more complicated than a regular butter cake. All right, so first off, make sure that everything you're using, cake pan, this is an angel food cake pan, it's called a tube pan. It has a free-floating base to it. The tube helps cook the cake from the center as well as from the outside in. And it makes it really easy to take the cake out of the pan, okay? Make sure everything you're working with is completely free of grease because egg whites don't beat up if they have any oil or fat in them. So the first thing I need to do is to show you how to do the eggs. Now that sounds like a silly thing to do, right? Except for the fact that when you do eggs for the egg whites, you need to make sure that you do not get any of the yolk in the egg white. So you separate all your eggs separately. Now, as you can see, the recipe calls for about 12 eggs. So if you, it calls for 12 eggs, and that's about a cup and a half. So I have a bowl over here to put my egg yolk in, and then I have my measuring cup right here to put my egg white in. If you don't have one of these handy dandy little gadgets like that, all you have to do is use your shell. Hopefully I cracked this right. You can use your shell as an egg separator. You just have to be extremely careful you don't break that white. Now the reason you want to do it this way, so that you are separating all your eggs separately, is because if you have separated 11 eggs and you have got all of them ready and you need one more egg white and you are doing it over that glass jar and you break that yolk, you've just screwed up a dozen eggs. So it's costly. So you need to make sure you're separating them separately. So I'm going to do one more. Notice after every time I'm emptying that egg white into my container so that I am keeping them all separate so that they work that way. The other way you can separate eggs, and this is what I see chefs doing all the time, is they will actually pour the egg into their hand to separate it. I'm not real fond of that because it gets y'all slimy. Anyway, so that's kind of what you're doing, and you've got to do 12 of these, so I'm not going to spend my time with you doing that, so I'll be back again. Okay, so what I've done is I put all my egg whites into my bowl, so I'm ready to start mixing. If you're reading the recipe, it tells you to preheat your oven, which I have done. You heard that dinger earlier. And then it says to sift together the flour, the cake flour, and 3/4 of a cup of the sugar, and that's what I've done. I did it 3 times. My grandmother had a recipe that she used to make the most wonderful angel food cake, and it called for her to sift the flour and sugar together 12 times. And what that did was it kind of powdered the sugar for her when she was mixing it with the flour. Nowadays, most people use powdered sugar in a recipe. This one didn't call for that, but there are a lot of recipes out there that do call for powdered sugar. Okay, so it says in a large bowl, you're going to whip the egg whites along with the vanilla, the cream of tartar, and the salt. So I have all of those here. And you're going to whip those on high speed until they reach medium stiff peaks. It will start out looking kind of brown and icky, and it will get beautiful and white. So while that's beating to medium stiff peaks, I'll talk to you in a minute. As you can see, my egg whites have gotten up very, very high in my bowl. I'm going to stop the mixer so you don't have to listen to it, and I'm going to lift it up. These are kind of medium stiff peaks. See how that works? So that's a medium stiff peak. One of the things that I wanted to tell you that I did earlier was I took a spatula and pulled out the chalaza. Remember from foods, the chalaza is the stringy part that holds the yolk in the white. So it holds the yolk to the, the embryo in. So it's kind of like your umbilical cord for the little chick. And so I pull that off because I don't like those lumps in my egg whites. So that's going to go over there in the sink. Now, from here on, I'm going to be beating in sugar until it reaches stiff peaks. And you want to add it gradually so that that sugar has a chance to dissolve. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is the egg yolks. What do you do with 12 egg yolks? There's all sorts of things you can do. There's a bread out there that uses like 9. And then if you looked at the recipes for the butter cake, best butter cake, on the back, or one of the recipes it calls for, is to make lemon curd. So that's going to take 8 large egg yolks. The other thing that I gave you was a recipe that I've used often with this when we do it in class. It's called Aunt Iola's 11 egg yolk cake. And it takes most of those egg yolks and uses them and makes a kind of a spongy cake out of them. It's very good with either chocolate frosting or strawberries and whipped cream. So I'm going to start adding the sugar a little at a time, and this will get to really stiff peaks. Notice how high this is, so you have to kind of keep an eye on it. Okay, so I'm going to add my sugar. I have to watch the air, because the air was coming out of here blowing my sugar around. I don't know if you can see. I'm just putting a little bit at a time. And beating it in. And I'm going to continue doing that, and I'll be back. Back again. I've scraped down my mixture a couple of times to make sure I've got all the sugar incorporated. I'm going to turn this off. My egg whites have reached their maximum volume. And if you pull them out, or if they're very stiff, I could take this whole bowl and turn it upside down and nothing would come out of it. So once they have reached that stage, you're going to take this off. Yeah, mess. Get as much of your egg white off of it as you possibly can, because that's what leavens your cake. The only thing that leavens this cake is the egg whites and the fluffiness of those eggs, the air you've beaten into them. So you need to really make sure that you have that at a stiff peak. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, it says to fold. It says in here, fold in the sifted dry ingredients 1/3 at a time. So to get this out of the way, I'm going to roughly, that's about 1/3 of that. And folding, remember what folding is? Down, up through the center, down the side, up through the center, down the side. Try not to stir or beat this. You definitely want to fold it, because remember, all those little air bubbles are what is creating the leavening in your cake. So once you have that fairly well mixed in, and this is a pretty long process, it takes a little while, it's not going to be quick. Add another 1/3 or so, and do it again. Down through the center, up the side, down through the center, up the side. Notice I'm turning my spatula along with pulling that up from the sides. And it just takes time. If you're an angel food cake lover like me, these are the best. Now, just to let you know, because Grandma's recipe always called for almond extract, I put in a teaspoon and 1/8 or so of vanilla, and then I added the rest in almond extract. You don't want to put in a lot of almond because it can be very overpowering for people, but I just love it. So there's my final third. And you can see this takes a little while. And you've got to make sure you get clear down to the bottom, and it's kind of messy, because hopefully your spatula is long enough to reach down to the bottom of your bowl so that you can get all of that egg white and flour incorporated. So often you will end up with a pocket of flour like I've got at the bottom of mine that I have to still fold in. So you don't want to overmix this, but you definitely don't want any dry areas. Okay, I've made sure I don't have any dry areas. And I'm going to take my cake pan and I am going to try to keep it off the tube as much as possible in the center, which I'm not doing a very good job of, am I? And I'm going to put my cake batter or foam mixture around the edges like this. And you want to make sure it gets all on the sides and down in those corners, because it's light and fluffy and it doesn't really like to go where you want it to. So you have to kind of make it. Before I bake this, no, don't you fall. I am going to take a long spatula or a butter knife, and I am going to go, and I'll show you what I'm going to do here in just a sec, because I'm almost to that point. Messy, messy, messy. Sound like the guy on Frosty the Snowman. Okay, so now I'm going to take a leveling spatula, and one, I'm going to kind of smooth the top so that it's more even. Okay, and I'm going to go around the outside, and I'm going to cut through my cake batter to hopefully get rid of some of those big air pockets that possibly could have formed. Same thing around the center, go around the center, and then I'm just going to cut around like this to hopefully get those big air pockets out. You can go this way, and then this way, in long splotches. That will help get those air pockets out of there, and your cake will be better. Okay, so this goes into a 375-degree oven, and you want to make sure that that oven has all the racks out except the bottom one. You want to center this cake in the pan, and I always like to wipe this off because then it doesn't burn. Right there. And you want to center this in the pan, and I will show you when I unpan this what you have to do. When it comes out of the oven, you want to turn this thing upside down. See? Stay. Upside down to cool it on a rack or on a bottle. Anyway, I'll show you what I do. I will put in a new video for how to take it out of the pan and how to cool it. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.